fall
There just
right into that
happens to
hole.
be a cat right here in front of us.
All right.
We're in podcasting mode, baby.
Yeah, we are.
Draw your strength from his floof.
From within the floof.
So good.
All right. Welcome to the Devil's Work podcast. I'm your host this week, Evelyn, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Sideshow and Skeptic.
What's goody?
Hello.
And this week we're talking about a spooky little movie called Creep
Yup.
from 2014.
It's hard to classify this one as a slasher like we were talking about,
I
but
don't think
I think
is.
it's been billed as a slasher.
It's like a
It's a
sort
thriller.
of. It's like a slasher where it all happens off screen.
Yeah, it's like a pseudo slasher because there's actually like two. I was saying like there's like two on-screen deaths in both films.
Yeah, like not much.
But
Yeah.
it's mostly about toying with you. It's like it's a thriller comedy. It's like a dark comedy.
Yeah, like I actually had Dylan watch the first one, and surprisingly, he was like, "I hated it," and I was like, "Whoa, I thought you would like it," and he was like, "No, I just see Duplass as a funny
Homeboy
guy
from the league.
So yeah,
From the
so
league.
like
Yeah.
I can't really like unsee that, and I was like, you know what, fair enough.
That's mostly what he does. He's like a very lovable, like funny guy, and he's in a lot of rom-coms too.
Yeah.
But this was the first time I'd ever seen him. This was my
Interesting.
introduction
Wow.
to him.
Interesting. I was
That's
just
a really cool.
So this is
intro.
how I think of him.
I was just gonna say, it's like I can't unsee John C. McGinley as Dr. Cox. Like when I watch Platoon, I'm like, yeah,
okay.
that's Dr. Cox serving.
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, fair enough to the people that have that, take on someone who's sort of been typecast or carried the same role
Yeah.
for a long time.
They
you know?
just stay that way in your mind.
It
I just
it
love the
happens.
fact that this is a movie made by two people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
they're in it,
Yeah.
they film it, they wrote it together. It's like I don't know what the budget
It-
is, but I imagine it's like $5.
And it's all improv. I'm gonna look up the budget. That's something that we probably should be doing. If
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
like
probably.
a more serious,
Yeah.
But you know,
I'm gonna
It's punk rock, baby.
I'll read the synopsis here real quick. Looking for work, Erin comes across a cryptic online ad, $1,000 for the day, filming service. Discretion is appreciated. Low on cash and full of naivete, he decides to go for it. He drives to a cabin in a remote mountain town where he meets Joseph, his cinematic subject for the day. Joseph is sincere and the project seems heartfelt, so Erin begins to film. But as the day goes on, it becomes clear that Joseph is not who he says, and his intentions are not at all pure.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty, and like that's all you need.
It's an extremely gaslighty movie.
Yeah, exactly.
totally.
It's like it's
100%.
gaslighting the film. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what, too? So I looked it up. You'll never guess what the budget was. Evelyn was actually quite close.
Really?
Oh my God, what
Quite
was
close. The budget
What?
was
it?
zero.
Was it $10?
They
What?
owned everything that they used, and they
Oh,
sold it
that's
to
amazing.
Netflix for 7
Wild.
figures.
Oh my God!
I'm so proud of them.
That's
Good for
And
them.
it's good. It's really
Yeah,
solid.
It's very
and
good.
it's improv. Like the writing that they did was just okay. This guy comes over, and then like there's an axe out front, like just like the dressing, really
Yeah.
the things
Yep.
that like maybe recurred, and things like that, and like
Yeah.
peach fuzz, you know.
Just-
God,
stuff
Peach
they had
Fuzz,
around.
so good.
Yeah, as I understand it, it was written by Patrick Brice and Mark Duplass, and directed by Patrick Brice, who is also the guy who's filming Mark Duplass for most of it. And it started as they were like tossing around ideas for a dark comedy in some form. And then when they were pitching these ideas to their friends were like, this needs to be a horror movie. So it wasn't originally, I don't think, supposed to be, about the promise of possible murder.
That's awesome.
But it just ended up being a little bit darker than they had intended.
I love though that like, because for a long time I just wasn't someone who gave like found footage as much respect as I guess it really does deserve.
It's a
like,
case by case thing, you know, and that's
Yeah,
it
and that's
really
the thing
is.
is certain tropes get ruined by the things that do them poorly, and then you just think all found footage. Not that Cloverfield or Blair Witch are bad, but it's just like you know, all found footage is going to be derivative.
There's only so many things you can do.
which this is technically,
Yeah.
these are going to be technically the second round of films that we cover.
Yeah.
That are in that genre, technically, with Man Bites Dog.
Man Bites
Go
Dog.
listen to our Man Bites Dog
Right.
episode.
And this,
I mean, there are cornerstones of like found footage. Like I love Blair Witch and the Blair Witch Project, the original,
Yeah.
not any of these things that came after.
Not the abominations.
And I love Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
and again, the first one, maybe the
Yes.
first couple, but it quickly became all right, whatever.
That shit went
Yeah.
off the rails,
As
son.
as somebody
But I
with
wanna rewatch
sleep
them, though.
paralysis, that and the fourth kind were like, you know, fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
You
fourth
know.
kind is really good. Definitely getting its own episode.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, I also like the point I was gonna also lead to was that I didn't give these found footage films enough, I guess, credit because the fact that like it seems like, oh yeah, it's easy enough to just put a camera on and just fucking do the thing, but no, like
You gotta have that good story.
directing and shooting at the same time is some fucking wildly like talented shit.
Yeah, because you have to think about like what it is you're showing in the scene and what you're like almost showing.
You're composing everything while you're doing that. Like that's
You're acting while you're filming.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're doing exactly directing, acting, and shooting. Like that's a lot of fucking chops on screen.
It's wild too because every, you know, there are cuts every now and then.
Yeah.
But they're so
Mm-hmm.
few and far between that it means these two went, you know, improv wise, like went along with each other for like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes in some cases. And it's just like the outtakes must be great, but also just like,
oh yeah.
I don't think that they do 4 minutes and then go, okay, that was pretty good, and then one of us cracked, so let's just do that again exactly. Like,
No, they're just like, what can we do now? Yeah, I read that there are like 3 or 4 different endings to
Whoa,
this.
that's cool.
So I would love to see
that's
those
fun.
someday.
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah,
Well,
and
the one that they built off of though,
I,
so that's gotta be.
I really like the implication of who exactly edited this. Like, I don't really know if we should say this. I mean, I guess you kind of get who it would be from the setup, but like, you know, just for the sake of spoilers. But it is interesting to think of like, yeah, both these films are like actually in-universe films on one particular shelf, but they are in-universe how these films are cut together.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
like
yeah.
all
This film
the,
exists inside their world.
exactly how it is. You know,
It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
it's very meta.
Yeah, exactly. And well, also like this film, there's a lot of homages to film in like the dialogue too. Like he talks about like Coppola in the beginning of the second one.
Yeah.
And he talks about I think it was a Michael Keaton movie in the first one.
Yeah, I can't remember what film it was.
It was
Oh,
called
it's-
My Life.
Yeah,
Right.
something
Yeah.
like that about him
basically
having
what-
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
I want to
so-
do that, basically.
Yeah, so there's like nods to like film making
And
in
it's-
the movie and
it's-
like how he brings it up.
It's funny how it's always something with like an extremely simple elevator pitch that like becomes really good, where he's like, okay, it's my life, but he doesn't really have cancer and he's a monster. and you're like, whoa, I would fucking watch that. Let's
Absolutely. So
It's,
yeah, if
it's
you guys,
this but is always like, I don't know.
yeah, it's a very good premise for a film. Whenever you do that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
as much
You know?
as like even as musicians, like we try to avoid that, but like it's still having someone be like, oh, you know, it's like clipping, but like the lyrics are way better and the flow is way more like intense, you
yeah.
know, then you'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at that, but oh, you know, that's not what I'm going for.
yeah, exactly.
You know, like-
that wasn't my intention.
Yeah, but you're like, okay, you know, I'll take the compliment.
So if you guys enjoyed this little, I mean, if you guys haven't seen this, please, you know, we would recommend
Please check this out. It's so
pause
fun.
this, go check this out, go check this and part 2 out. They're both on Netflix as of this recording.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I really
without
enjoyed
further-
that aspect. It was very, very easy. Not
Yeah,
that
they're so easy to get
It's
through
like
too.
popcorn.
there's
Yeah,
been a couple
absolutely.
that we've had to like kind of Google around, or I had to get an AMC Plus for a week for one of them, you know. But this was like, click, click.
Yeah, exactly. You're real quick. So yeah, if you guys dig the premise, highly recommend it. We're gonna kick her off though.
Yeah.
Let's get into
Get
it.
into the guts of it and see the truth of
do
the
it.
universe.
Yeah. So we open. This is found footage, of course. So Aaron, this guy with glasses, is filming in his car. He's found an ad on probably Craigslist for a video gig for $1,000 a day. I think he's in LA.
Yeah, somewhere
a very
outside
LA
of LA,
feel.
I think. They say the name of the lake, but it just
So he's
seems-
driving to a mountain town in San Bernardino called Lake Gregory. And he doesn't really know anything about the client. I don't think they've even spoken on the phone because he doesn't know if it's a man or a woman. He's like, what if this is like some lonely woman who wants to get intimate? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be fun? That's like as far as he's gone imagining like the unknown.
Which is so funny to me. Like, I feel like it just immediately tells you he's so naive and
Yeah,
like,
he really is.
wishful.
That's so-
And the timestamp is March 21st, 2012. So this is being filmed 2 years before the film comes out. It came out in
okay.
2014.
Ah.
Which is, I always love that game that they play. Like, this is real. Like, this is how much time has
Yeah,
passed.
exactly.
Yeah, so he's like, we'll see what it is. He's just looking for a job. And he arrives in, the town is called Crestline.
That's right.
And he goes to this house, one of those houses that's like built into the side of a hill. And he goes...
Many
he's-
stairs.
Yeah, he's filming
Jesus, I
from the outset, and he's like knocking on the door, and no one answers, and he calls the number, and no one answers, and he's like, well, shit. And he's like filming, there's an axe and a stump in the front yard, and he's like, interesting. And then he goes and waits in the car, and he's kind of like, I don't know if this guy is gonna show up. And then we get our first jump scare, which sets the tone of this whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it. Like no one likes jump scares, and like
I
that
like
they're-
these ones.
Yeah, these ones are pretty like funny because they're intentionally bad.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
And it's found footage, so there's no music, there's no audio slam.
No.
The jump scare,
it's them screaming at the camera.
it's on its own merit, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like this is the character. His client is Joseph, and Joseph, who is Mark Duplass, who has a gigantic face and this big
It's a
ass
lot of
jack
clothes.
o'
Biggest
lantern
face in the
grin,
business.
and
Absolutely.
like the most disconcertingly intense eye contact.
Yeah.
He's just so
That
friendly
chin.
and so excited, and he's just like, "Hi, it's me."
You just made me imagine him as like a Billy and Mandy villain.
He's just so likable, except you know that he's out of his goddamn mind.
You feel. I mean,
Immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no immediate sense of danger, but you know that something's
Yeah.
getting the flags have been raised and they are red.
Also, yeah, you know the movie's called Creep.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
that
So,
he's
like,
the creep.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this guy gonna do? Because it's
Yeah.
all very like open and friendly, and he's like, we're gonna have such a great time together.
There's such a thing as being too nice.
Yeah, and he has this great line. He's like,
Oh my god.
oh my god, this is gonna be a great day.
Yeah.
He's just like, you have such a kind face. Let's go. And like, I noticed like everything is it's 100% gaslight from the beginning. So like, he does these little things that take away Aaron's agency right off the bat.
Yeah.
He opens the
Yeah.
car door for Aaron,
Oh, interesting.
and he's like, let's go. And he's like, let's start this with a hug. And
It's
just like,
breaking down those
Yeah,
defenses.
by the end
Yeah.
of the day, this isn't going to be weird, and he's just like,
Yeah.
you could like hear him like stammering a little bit.
yeah, Aaron's
just like-
very reluctant to open up or like get friendly. And and just yeah, everything that Joseph does is like easily excusable as someone who's just a little too friendly. So like at every turn it's like, well, I mean, you know, he's
odd, but he's not dangerous,
which is that beautiful dance that this movie does the whole time, even when it starts to get crazy. Yeah. So he's wearing this outfit. He's got like black lycra running clothes, like he's been out running.
Yeah.
But has he? Who knows? And he's like going up the steps. He's like, come on into the house. And he's like, I never get used to these stairs. Like, this is my family's vacation home. And you're like, oh, okay. And inside in the front hallway, he's like, okay, so this is what I want to do. I'm a cancer survivor. I had cancer of the liver. It spread to the lungs. I beat it with chemo. But now I have this brain tumor the size of a baseball. And I maybe only have 2 to 3 months to live. And my wife, Angela, of 6 years, is pregnant. And we're going to have our baby, Buddy.
Yeah.
And I want to make a tape for Buddy so that he can see what I was like. And he's explaining all this to Aaron. And he's like... So he's like looking up over the camera, and he's like, so what do you think? Is this something that you want to do? And Aaron's like, yeah, I guess.
It sounds so rehearsed.
He also makes sure to say during it, well, I would say that's a good point too, though. So I'll address that first. Because the rehearsed like nature is like when someone goes through something tragic, they end up having to give this explanation to many people.
That's also
many
fair.
times.
So
Yeah.
you get that just like, I had cancer of the liver and it spread to my lungs and I beat it with chemo, you know, because you're just like...
and he's like trying to be positive about it.
Yeah, that's also... Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like pretty good acting choice.
That's true.
In universe from Joseph.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But he also makes really certain here to say that the reason they found the tumor is because he was having like dizzy spells and then, in his own words, cognitive misfirings.
Right.
So I feel like as we go on, the weird stuff that he does, like up to a point, Aaron is just like
explained.
This poor man, like his, you know, this tumor is pushing parts of his brain against each other. Like
that's interesting.
Things are
going
off, but obviously we know that that's a story.
Right.
You know?
And he's sort of like his guard is down because like, well, this is a man who has led a successful life. He has a vacation home and he's married and he has a kid. Like, obviously he's got his shit
where
together.
The zipper is in those weird pants he has. That's money.
He's got those fancy running tights.
The butthole zipper.
You got to put your house key somewhere.
All I could think is like, yeah,
so
I guess
funny.
it is for running, because like if you sat with like a wallet or keys in that pocket, like that would not be comfortable.
No, my man, that's getting lost.
Lost in the sauce.
So he has this pitch for Aaron, and he's like, "Does this sound like something you want to do?" He checks in all the time.
You're right.
Like,
yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, he keeps.
Are you down for this? And Aaron's like, I guess. And he's like, I thought you were gonna run away. And he goes in for another hug. Just all this double speak.
You're so right.
It could work either way.
It's you know, overall so obvious, but you're right when you like, I knew this was going to happen. Like we were talking before, like how should we cover these movies? And then I was like, well, we're probably going to get into every single acting choice.
Dude,
and it's too much, especially when it's improvised. It's like, that must be one of the few things that was like written and discussed, was like, so you're going to do these things that are these classic signs of gaslighting all throughout. Like, you know, that had to be part of the framework, because we're already seeing it's everywhere.
It's all 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like something really crazy, and then he's like, I mean, you know, this is the reason. And Aaron's like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. And it's
because like right after he's like, this is really crazy, we're gonna get really raw here, and then like lots of hugging, and he's like, I thought you were gonna run away. And then he hands him his $1,000 immediately. He's like, I'm paying you now. This is no longer a business transaction. This is a partnership.
Yeah.
So
and all I could think is, it's still a business transaction. You're just paying him sooner than later. But it is, like you said, all about reframing in Aaron's mind the way that Joseph wants him to see things.
Yeah. So he's like, here's your $1,000, and I'm going to go get in the tub. And he goes up the stairs, and Aaron's like, the tub?
And you already
He scurries
know.
away so many times in these movies. It's so good. He's like, all right, let's do this.
He's like, yeah, come on. And yeah, he's like, well, I just got paid, so yeah, obviously I have to document whatever the fuck it is that we're doing. And he's like, this is a tape for a kid who's gonna watch his dad someday, so like whatever. And he goes into the bathroom, and Joseph is getting naked.
He's like, is this okay?
Yeah, he's like, oh, and he's like, no, this is, and like he's very normal at the right moments. He's like, no, this is we're showing everything. This is my life. It's fine. And then he like gets in the bathtub.
He's like,
Warts
get
and all.
comfortable.
Yeah, we're gonna go a lot deeper places than this.
Yeah.
He says, and then he explains, he's like, you sure you're not hungry or anything?
Yeah,
He's
he's
already
like, yeah.
naked. And Aaron's like, no. And he's like, okay, well, maybe we'll get a sandwich, after we get out of the tub. Well, I'm getting in the tub. You're not getting in the tub. But, like, these little things.
Yeah, the little, like, jokes. that,
Aaron's
again,
like,
it's all
we're getting in
disarming.
the tub?
He almost says it like Aaron would want to. Like, it's
Right.
almost like he's, like, slapping Aaron on the wrist, like, I'm getting in the tub, not you. But it's just like, it's like, all right, Jessica Rabbit, calm down.
And he's like, okay, are you rolling? And Aaron's like, yeah. He's like, I'm just checking. I knew you were.
Yeah, it's like...
Which is something you come to realize about this, I guess you could call this a franchise, is that Joseph always knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Even if he thinks that if he seems like he doesn't know, he knows.
yeah, he's way more clever than he lets on.
Yeah. So he explains that when he was a kid, he and his dad would have tubby time.
So disturbing.
Yeah.
I put it'd be cute if it weren't so creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he wants to like role play, reenact this tubby time that his son can watch someday. And he gets really into it. He's just like lifting an imaginary toddler into a tub and like pouring the water, and he's like, oh, you got some shampoo in your eye. Like he's doing the whole bit.
And then he like,
but he's looking in the camera.
and then he like lays the imaginary baby on his chest, like they're gonna like relax now that the actual washing is done. We're just gonna chill for a minute. And then he's like, do you like the fire? And it's just
there's candles around the tub, and he's like acting as though Buddy can see the candles on the tub.
like he's like reaching out for the flames or something. Like and it just, you get a very similar sense to in The Dark Knight. You want to know how I got these scars? The multiple origin stories.
You did.
I literally made the joke that he's Joker.
Yeah, it's like
right before we started recording.
You can't trust the totality and the details of what he's saying.
He's the most unreliable narrator.
But I feel like there's something to be gained from the overall. Like I feel like if you
there's
watch,
a core of truth.
Yeah, like if in all of his collection maybe there's all these little seeds that add up to explain something about the man, and that's
that
why
could be they're pulling from an inner truth. I was saying earlier, it's like he has a bucket of lies that he pulls from, but they all come from the same place.
And it makes me wonder, did his father molest him or something? It doesn't always have to be that, but just that there's so few things that he gives us, and there has to be that. Like you said, it comes from somewhere. So it's just why did he choose to do this?
Yes.
But it's also I don't know. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't always have to be that. You know what I mean?
Right. But it's ultimately, there are only two goals. One is to fuck with Aaron, and the other is to entertain himself.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Toying with your
so
fucking
it's just
food.
So it's, So it's in that way, he's free to give up these little seeds because he's the only one who's ever going to watch the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it starts out being he's really leaning heavily into this is a tape for Buddy. And then from this point, there's very little of the video that is directed at Buddy. If you think about it,
It's true.
He's just laying there in the tub and he's got the washcloth on his face and he's like, he takes the washcloth off and he's looking at Aaron and he's like, it's so weird knowing you're gonna die. You know?
Yeah.
Why don't I just end it right now?
So good.
Yeah.
And he just like slips under the water.
So
And
good.
it's so dark, but it's also just like, I'm sure that thought occurs.
Yeah.
You know, that thought occurs in the depressed mind even without, you know, that of just
Yeah,
like life's
exactly.
gonna end eventually, so what does it
Yep.
matter?
Yeah.
You know,
so like
so it's
from
like-
Aaron's point of view, even this seems plausible. He's like, oh, this is heavier than I wanted to get. And then all of a sudden his client is maybe drowning in 2 inches of water in front of him.
Yeah, he's just like, what do I do?
Yeah. And he gets up and he's like, Joseph? And Joseph like explodes out of the water and he's like, ah! And scares the shit out of Aaron. And
So
Joseph
fucking
is just
funny.
like, I'm sorry. I was just getting too serious in here, you know?
I got a weird sense of humor, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Again,
see the
just
truth.
setting the precedent.
Yeah, exactly.
He does
Yeah.
find some strange things funny, we find.
Yeah. So he like really kind of shakes Aaron up and he's like, I'm sorry. You want to go outside and get some fresh air? And Aaron's like, yes, I do. And he's like, okay, well, you know, you go down the stairs and
Oh yeah, this is where we get.
it's cold outside. You'll need a jacket. You know, if you go in that closet in the guest bedroom, there's some jackets in there. And Aaron goes down the stairs and
we
he
get the
like
real main character of the movie.
he pulls this curtain aside and there's this wolf face, this horrible like
I put Aaron kind of screams like a bitch.
he does. There's this like really crazy wolf Halloween mask in the closet there. And, you know, from the distance, like, Joseph's like, what happened? What is it? And he comes in and he's like, oh, I'm so glad this happened, actually, buddy. Buddy, you're going to love this. Addressing his
man.
future son again. And he's like, this is Peach Fuzz, the friendly wolf.
I love this
The song.
so much, dude. It's so weird.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so fucking
I think
weird.
he says, like, this is a mask that his dad made.
His dad made. Yep.
Yeah, and he's like, he's a friendly wolf. There's a song, and he puts on the mask and he sings this like ridiculous song, which in part is, "Hello, my name is Peach Fuzz. I may look like a big bad wolf, but I'm as friendly as a rabbit." And Aaron's like, I guess we're filming this.
And he just
And the
fucking
dance and everything.
keep rolling.
Yeah, just like jazz hands and that whole thing. It's just a really dumb song.
It's
And
so good.
this is one of many points where, you know, you like watching it as Aaron, you're like, $1,000 for a day seemed pretty good, but I don't know if this is worth $1,000. Like,
Absolutely
I
not.
really want to go home.
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many things to feel uncomfortable about already.
Yeah. So then they're driving out to the woods for like going for a hiking spot, and I noticed Joseph is driving Aaron's car. So that's
Yeah.
another boundary crossed.
I thought that was
that-
very
yeah.
interesting as well, and I'm assuming off camera, or rather just like in the cut of the film, you know, the stuff that was cut, he was like, oh, well, you know, I don't have a car out here because it's a, you know, vacation home or whatever. Like, let
yeah,
me
there's
just,
always an excuse.
you're filming, so let me just drive. But like,
yeah,
Yeah.
I know the way better than you do. I'll just
immediately clocked, like, that is so strange. Why is, you know,
yeah. It's definitely
it's like,
it's subtle, but you're like, isn't that Aaron's car?
Yeah.
it's a bright yellow car too, so it's like, pretty,
Yeah.
pretty noticeable if you're paying attention.
And he's telling, I guess he's still like sort of addressing Buddy at this point, and he's telling him about, oh, your mom and I found out about this place. It's somewhere up in the mountains. It's like a place with healing waters for people who are pure of heart. And he's like, fuck it, you know, whatever. Like, maybe, I know I have a brain tumor, but like, maybe, you know, if I get in this water, who knows? We'll just like film it and see what happens. It could be a nice moment. because he's being very positive about his diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, how's your heart, Aaron? And Aaron's like, good. And he's like, it better be.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I forget what it is exactly, but he says it in Spanish, and it's something.
Yeah, something about
agua
del
de corazon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Water of the heart.
He says he heard about it from this woman who has a taco truck down at the lake.
Yeah, which is so fucking funny.
And then they're hiking on a pretty steep trail, and like Joseph is going so fucking fast.
Yeah.
He's just like speed hiking, and Aaron's like, oh god, this is exhausting. He's trying to keep up with him, and he's just like, Joseph is just full of energy. Like, this doesn't seem like a man who has cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Is this the where he's telling him about like, oh, that moment when I scared you with the mask? It looked for like 2 seconds there.
No, this is
a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But so Joseph is like speed hiking, and he's like, wait, do you hear that? He hears a sound, and then he just runs off. He
scurries away.
Just beeline into the trees, and Aaron's like, what the fuck?
I love how
I don't. Where am I?
I love how Aaron just like raises a hand like oh, okay, and then just like doesn't take a single step. He's just like I have no fucking idea where I am. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he's like wandering around. I think there's like there's a cut to another shot. So like there's an implication of like he's been wandering around for maybe like 10 minutes. Like, I'm fucked. I'm out here. I don't know where I am. And then Joseph pops out from behind a boulder, and he's like, ah! And Aaron screams, and Joseph's like, oh my god, you should see your face right now. And he takes the camera and films Aaron, who we haven't seen much of recently up to this point. And Aaron looks understandably pissed, and Joseph is like fascinated by it. He's like, you just experienced a near-death moment. Like, that's what it feels like when you think you're gonna die. And he's like, it's really cool. Like, for a few seconds there, you look like you wanted to kill me. Like,
there's a little Peach Fuzz inside you yet.
Which is really funny because he has pitched Peach Fuzz as a friendly wolf. Mm-hmm. And now he's describing the murderous nature of Peach Fuzz.
It's so funny.
That's interesting. I definitely didn't
unreliable.
catch that.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And then
he's very interested in wolves for some reason.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's interesting too because this is the first time we have to like, it only kind of hints at it. You don't really like totally see it here, but when he takes the camera, you can tell that Aaron is quite a bit taller than Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he's got a good...
He's almost a foot taller than him.
Yeah.
He's got some fucking inches on him for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of mass on the man.
Mm-hmm. And this is a stretch of like Joseph is really pushing Aaron like really far because like they're out in the middle of nowhere. They haven't gotten anything to eat. Aaron's hungry. He's like, do you remember where the car is? And Joseph's like, no. But like, that's behind us. You know, we got to push forward on this journey, this like spiritual journey, this physical journey. And Aaron's like, oh my God, I followed this guy into the middle of nowhere. He doesn't know where he is.
It kind of seems like maybe he does and he's like fucking with him.
Oh yeah,
he for sure has scouted this place.
I think he knows exactly where he's going.
Yeah, and he's just like, we'll just we'll figure out what to do. Like, I think we're close. And he's like, there's a creek there. Like, we're close to something. And Aaron's like, dude, there's a sign here. It says it's sewage water. Like, what? And Joseph goes out on this little cliff, and he's like, oh my God, Aaron, you're not gonna believe this. You gotta come see this. And you already don't trust this fucker.
Absolutely.
And he's like, he's standing on the edge of the cliff, and he's pointing, and he's like, come right over here and look. And you're like, bro, I would not go out on a ledge with this guy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And he's like, point your camera down there. What do you see? And it's a heart shape that's been worn into the rock by the waterfall. And Aaron's like, "Oh my god, it's a heart."
So they say it's a heart, but as he's zooming in, you can see that it's like a heart, right? And then it's like the rock that it's on is like this large, like rounded, like hill that's like one big solid piece of rock, and then up above and to the side of it is another hole. And from the perspective that you see before the zoom in, the heart looks more like the nose hole in a skull. And
it does,
like it looks more like it's like a skull rock than a heart rock.
Yeah.
And he's
so
just like
cool.
looking right past it to what Joseph is telling him to look at. And like,
and Aaron is not a curious person. He's just like, "Oh yeah, cool."
yeah, he's just like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess that justifies the last several hours of my life.
And this is one of those times that's like we've gone two steps forward and now one step back. It's like now they're having a good time. Like he has Aaron put the camera down and they're both like getting their, they've rolled their pants up and they're like wading in the water and they're like having
Taking
a good
dip
time
with the boys.
They're like baptizing each other.
Yeah. And it's just like as a video of two friends, it's like kind of, it makes sense. You would like film you and your friends having a good time, but like it's if you stop and think about it, like this is supposed to be a video for Buddy.
Yes.
And now it's just Joseph and Aaron having fun. And there's a shot of like Joseph is scratching in a rock, J plus A, and he puts it in a heart because it's the heart rock. Like it all is kind of excusable.
But ostensibly it's supposed to be Joseph and Angela. But obviously what he really means is Joseph and Aaron.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he just picks a fake spouse name for every person that like matches up letter wise.
Yeah, and he is wearing a wedding ring.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like done some preparing for his scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just like Aaron loosens up a little and he's like having a good time, and they're sort of like just dicking around.
I put that it could be read as him looking for a friend, but it also feels like he's like almost fishing for a killing partner. Like that's what it almost.
He's always open to the possibility. He's very like, I get the impression from Joseph that he's always like, he has a premise and he meets his person and he gauges his person, and then he's like, I don't think he has a plan for how it's gonna go. Yeah. He's just like,
he's reading the situation.
We'll
as
see
it
where the
happens.
day takes us.
He's improv the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. It's really
hilarious.
fun in that way.
Yeah.
And
then he's like, "Are you hungry?"
let's go to this place that I've gone for years where I love the pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, best pancakes in the world. And then it cuts to them at the diner. And Joseph's opening up the menu, and he's like, let's see what's good here.
Yep. And I feel like that, I don't know if they've seen Man Bites Dog, but this is the thing that makes me think that maybe they have. Yeah. And it's a direct callback to that film, to just directly have him caught at a restaurant in his lies, like... It doesn't have to be, but it feels like of anything, it's the closest like one-to-one kind of moment. They're very, very different films, surprisingly.
Right.
But with, I would say, a charismatic serial killer being at the forefront of both of them.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But
I have a lot more respect for Joseph than I do for Benoit.
Absolutely, Benoit.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck Benoit.
But Man Bites Dog being like they stumbled on Benoit and now they said, hey, let's make this thing, and they're, stroking his ego, and they're aware of the danger they're in and all these things. And it's like a partnership they go into willingly. And then this is more just, this is how he... gets the flies in his web, and
absolutely,
and all the tropes of the way killers toy with their victims and everything is just him having fun, So it's like they achieve very different aesthetics and objectives, like storytelling wise.
I feel like this would
Yeah.
also be a really good pairing with the Behind the Mask.
Yeah, totally.
The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we mentioned all three of these movies during the Man Bites Dogs episode. But they all go about it in very different ways and achieve very different things. Where Leslie Vernon is like a produced, almost like History Channel kind of thing. You know, like,
it really
like
is.
it's got like up to a point, and then at the end it sort of like devolves. But it's like it's almost like you're watching this edited, cut together, but it can't really be in universe. And then Man Bites Dog is just all the way straight through, you know, unedited. These are just the
Fucking
pieces
unhinged.
of film. And then Creep is the killer doing it, creating this scenario.
Yeah, the scenarios,
and
for
then
sure.
actually cutting together the film. So it's like they're all so totally different. And I don't think that necessarily Duplass and Brice or whoever made Leslie Vernon had to have seen Man Bites Dog. Like it's surprising that they could be this close and be like, I don't think anyone's really cutting or biting anyone here.
They're just spiritual siblings.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great
from
way
the
of putting
same
it.
kind of the hive mind
Cut
of like
from the same fucked up cloth.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that they could be so close but so far apart and work so
They're their
well.
own things.
Yeah. It'd be easy
So
to just
this is-
rip off and be done, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
This is maybe the first time that Aaron becomes a little incredulous. Like when Joseph is like, "Let's see what's good here." Aaron's like, "Didn't you say you come here all the time?" Like, and he's like, Joseph's like, "Oh shit. Well, the menu changes when I'm away for years at a time. But like, yeah, obviously the pancakes are the thing." And then they get pancakes.
Yeah, and you get a sense of like he changed his mind and didn't want pancakes anymore, and was hoping he could get away with it, and was like,
Yep.
he's paying attention.
Oh no,
Yeah, exactly.
he's up.
He's
And then Joseph wants to have like confession time a little bit. He's like, "Aaron, have you ever done anything that you're ashamed of?" And he's like, "Hang on, hand me the camera. I'll film you for a second." And Aaron's like, "Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to pee my pants all the time, and it got so bad that my mom had to like get this sensor thing that goes from my wrist into like down into my pants, and then there's an alarm that goes off when it senses wetness." And he tells this story about being on the playground, and he didn't want to go inside, so he just like peed himself in the sandbox, and then he's just laying there covered in piss, and this alarm is going off, and everyone knew what he had done, and that was the first time that he ever felt shame. Which is interesting because like he's like, "Have you ever done anything that you're ashamed of?" But like that's not something that he did.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just an
It's something
embarrassing.
that happened.
That's something about him. It's like not an
Yeah.
act.
Yeah.
So it's like not necessarily what Joseph was
not
even fishing
answering-
for.
Yeah, it's not answering the question.
Yeah. And then Joseph's like, "Thanks for sharing that. Okay, well, it's my turn now." And he just gets out his phone, and he's like looking at his phone, and Aaron's like
up at him and kind of like
yeah.
awkwardly.
And then he pulls up a series of pictures, and he shows him, and it's photos of Aaron arriving in his car at the cabin and walking up the steps and like knocking on the door and like waiting, and they're all from different angles and from behind trees and like underneath the stairs.
He was doing some wild ass shit behind those trees, bro.
And he's like dead serious. He's like, "I'm so sorry. I took pictures of you." And Aaron's like, "I mean, that's really weird, but
it's
also
fine.
like it's not that big." Like he makes a big deal out of it. He's
Yeah,
like, "I'm
yeah.
so ashamed, and I just thought like maybe if I got to know you before you got to know me, maybe I wouldn't be so scared."
Again, another disarming tactic where he's just like
Yeah,
feigning.
He's always making a big deal out of something that isn't a
Mm-hmm.
big deal to like swap what is or isn't a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, exactly.
And forcing
That's a great way of
Aaron
putting
into
it.
this position where he's like, I mean, it's okay. And then he's like, thank you. Thank you for forgiving me.
Yeah, he's like, I knew you were a good person.
Yeah, he's like, I'm so glad that we're friends.
It's
Yeah.
It's like, and truly he must, like, I thought about this a lot this morning. He must truly be a kind person to, like, forgive this. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely
Yeah.
beyond me, but it's also just like,
I'd be like, okay, I'm done though.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
It's fine, but also I'm leaving.
Yeah, he's just so naive, like I said at the beginning. But it also, like, there
Yeah.
must be, like, that naivety comes from, like, well, you know, I would want people to believe me if I had something going on, and this guy's, you know, brain isn't working, so I get,
Yeah.
you know. But he's just so painfully, lethally naive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And just thinking about, like, you were with him when he arrived at the cabin and there was no one around, and just knowing that Joseph was, like, darting around in the trees undetected.
He's that
like,
good.
very sneaky.
Yeah, some
Yeah,
of those
exactly.
angles, you're
That's what
like,
I'm saying.
you're
He's
like,
pulling off some parkour shit.
He was very nearby.
either that
Yeah.
or, like, I mean, also, I'd never thought about this, but also he could have, like, planted some cameras in the trees, but
It's true,
I
yeah.
don't know. You
And just the premise of, like, he's wearing jogging clothes, so he's, like, his story
He's
that
active.
he was off running when Aaron showed up, like, that falls through.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
And plus, he seems to be like a pretty tech savvy dude to an extent, but he does tell people to bring their own
Why
cameras.
are you
Yeah.
so sweaty? I was watching Cops.
I fucking love that movie.
So then it's dark and they're back at the cabin, and we have this really great shot
Oh,
of
that silhouette.
Joseph
yeah.
is going up the steps.
The
And
cover, right?
Yeah, the light is behind him, so he's just a silhouette, and
Just
Aaron
beautiful.
he's leading the way, and Aaron is supposed to follow him up the steps, and Aaron kind of stops at the bottom of the steps, and he's like, so, I'm gonna go. You know, it's been a good day, but, like, I gotta get back. Like, it's like, he's like 3 hours from LA or some shit
Yeah.
like that. And all very reasonable. And,
In this scene, he reminded me of Benoit, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
So much. Just the birthday party.
yeah.
Yeah.
Joseph is, like, standing in front of this light, this figure way up there, and he's just like, oh, well, I was gonna pour you a whiskey, in a way that says, you must come and drink this whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, you're a real piece of shit if you don't.
Yeah. And Aaron's, like, trying to be like, I mean, it's late. I really should go. And Joseph very reasonably is like, I mean, like, we really should commemorate the day, you know, like, just one drink. Come on. And Aaron's like, fuck, okay. Fine, just one drink. Yeah, he's just, like, very good at making him seem like the rude one. And this is, like, if you're checking the time, you're like, there's 50 minutes to go. And how is this, where is this going?
Where the fuck is this gonna go?
Yeah. So he's like, come on back into the house, and he goes into the house, and then Aaron comes around the corner, and he gets another face full of Joseph. He's like, wow.
Face full.
Yeah, because it's, you know, this is who he is. He likes to pop around corners and scare the shit out of people. And
Yeah.
Aaron's like, I mean, you know, every time it lowers his defenses a little more. He's like, yeah, he's going to jump out at me. It's fine.
Yeah, like, wow, what a dick. But I guess, you know, some things you can't change about a man, so whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That's just who he is. If I just, like, get through this last drink, it's whatever. So they're sitting down and they're having their whiskey. And I think Aaron's, like, not drinking much of his. He doesn't want to get drunk. He just has a little
Yeah.
sip. Neither of them is drinking much of their whiskey.
yeah.
And
He's like, isn't this nice?
Yeah.
Isn't this great? Just two guys.
just two guys, two bros hanging out. And Joseph's like, so Aaron, why did you take this job? Was it for money? And Aaron doesn't want to say yeah, but like obviously, like
Yeah.
he answered an ad for $1,000 gig. Like it is, yes. And he's like, I mean, no. And he's like, it's okay. Like, you can tell me if you're having money problems. Like, people have money problems. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, he's very flippant.
Yeah. And he's like, you know, we're good friends now. I want to give you some money. And Aaron's like, you can tell Aaron wants this because he's put up with a lot of shit today. And he's like, oh, no, I couldn't. And he's like, no, really. You should, you know, check in your boot. I put a check in your boot.
That was hilarious.
And Aaron looks. And he's like, nah, there's nothing in your boot. But you looked, and that means that you need money. And Aaron's like, I don't know.
It's like when the worst customer you've ever had is like, oh, sorry, here's a $50 bill. And you're just like, oh, I couldn't. And you're just like, for the love of fuck, don't you dare be like, oh, all right. Like, you give me the second right of refusal. You don't, you know?
Yeah. But you know, you get the sense that like Aaron would love to find a way to graciously. This will be a story he tells his friends later. Like, I put up with this crazy asshole all day, and then it turned out he was a billionaire, and
now I'm rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, we make films together all the time. Like, he's crazy, but like, it's fine, and he pays me really well.
Yeah.
That's his dream scenario.
Yeah, wow, that's so interesting. And it's definitely, because you're trying to reach for, like, what is in it for this guy? Why is he dealing with it? And it's obvious when they bring up the money problems that, like, yeah, this dude really, like, he just had a day to come up here. You know what I mean? Like, if he had a day job, he probably wouldn't, you know, really have the time to get into this. So it's like,
And, you know, like, I absolutely understand, like, as a filmmaker who's, like, you know, looking for gigs and on the fringe of, like, not deep into the heart of Hollywood, but just sort of off on the sides of it. Like, absolutely, you're like, oh, a gig came up, let's go. I don't know what it is, but let's see.
Yep.
But I guess I can't remember how the conversation goes, but like, he's like, no, we'll work something out. And then Aaron's like, well, I am gonna go though.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change the fact that I'm leaving.
Yeah, and he's like, he's getting up, and Joseph is like, I lied to you.
Yeah, that's always his big move, is like, I'm going to reveal one small lie.
Yeah, and he covers his mouth like it's a big deal. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I lied to you. And Aaron's like, Aaron really wants to just go, but he's like, about what?
Yeah.
Which one of the 1,000 things you said to me today are you talking about right now? And he's like, peach fuzz. And he's like, the fucking wolf mask? What? What? He doesn't care about peach fuzz. And he's like, Aaron, you need to sit down. I have something to tell you. Like, this is really important. Turn the camera off. This is not for Buddy. I need to tell you something. It's very important. Sit down. And Aaron's like, oh, fuck, fine.
That shit is so fucking wild.
And in my head at this moment, it's just like, you know, in The Simpsons when they're like thinking of someone saying something again, and it's like they're like right next to their ear saying it, but just warts and all. Warts and all. Warts and all. But he's like, nope, dead it. He can't hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Aaron, you know, a lot of boundaries have been crossed, and Aaron is thinking of his safety, and he leaves the camera on, and I think he puts his jacket over it. And he's like, is the camera off? And Aaron's like, yeah. And, you know, you can assume Joseph always knows what's going on, so he probably knows that the camera is on, but like, he's playing a game. And he tells this amazing story
Jesus.
about his wife, Angela.
Oh, I guess we should have given a trigger warning.
We can edit that in. That's really easy to edit in. So we'll cut this piece out and go back and edit that in.
Yeah. So Joseph, now being very serious, as serious as he's been so far, I think, he tells a story about I think it was 4 years ago, the internet at his house slowed way down, and he's trying to figure out what's wrong with the internet. And someone at work tells him, like, oh, you should check your browsing history. And so he does, and he finds so much animal pornography.
So
The
creepy.
way he says it too, like hella sells being like, obviously it's not his. Like
He's like, and I was not looking at animal pornography, Aaron.
yeah,
Yeah.
like he sounds like the dad on Seventh Heaven finding a joint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, he
cold
would
clinical. I would never smoke a hand rolled marijuana cigarette. You know, like the cold
Yeah.
clinical nature of it. Yeah.
That stuff turns
Yeah.
you gay.
Next thing you know, you'll be watching animal pornography.
And he's like, there were only 2 people using the internet, me and Angela. And he brought it up to his wife, and she denied it. And then he says that they went up to the cabin, their vacation home,
Yeah.
and he had to be called away back to work. Except Aaron, I did not go back to work. He says he went down to the town and bought a wolf mask from a 99-cent store, which invalidates the story that his dad made this mask. And obviously you could tell from the start it is like a Halloween mask from like
Yeah, of course.
a shop.
Yeah, made of plastic, like not.
Yeah. Which, P.S., I have looked for many times. It is sold out. It's gone forever.
Oh, wow, they just do not.
They did buy it from like Amazon or
That's
something.
hilarious.
The peach fuzz mask cannot be found, and I'm sure it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, now.
Damn.
Yeah. So he went down to town and he bought this mask, and he came back to the cabin and broke in while his wife was sleeping, and he tied her up. And he says, then we proceeded to have wild, ravenous
Yeah.
animal intercourse. And he had never seen his wife happier. And then he snuck out and left. And he came back the next morning and asked his wife how her night was. And she said, oh, fine, with a little smile. And they never spoke of it. And then he pauses for a long time and he's like, Aaron, I raped my wife. And
it's just like
Aaron doesn't say anything, I think, during this
nothing.
whole time.
No, he doesn't. There's no.
Yeah. And then it cuts to the camera is on the table and Joseph is there and he's like, so anyway, buddy, this is me, your father, as I was.
God.
I love you. And Aaron's in the background. He's like, I think we got it. We're good. I'm going to go. And he's like, he cannot wait to get the fuck out of this house.
He like stops in
No,
mid sentence. He's like reaching for like the next thing to say, and he's like, "We got it. That's good." And he like slaps him on the shoulder as he's like walking past him to get his shit. He's just
Yeah, and Joseph's like, I don't think we got it. I'd like to do another take. And Aaron's like, no, we got it. It's good.
the crew on final shooting day.
We're 3 martinis deep. We got it. And Aaron is going through his jacket and he can't find his car keys. And he's like trying to be cool, but he's like frantic. And he's like, I have you seen my keys? Where did they go? And Joseph is just, Joseph has endless time. And he's like, well, maybe you should stay and like tomorrow when the house is full of light, we can find your keys.
This place is
and
gonna be flooded with light.
It's like
and we'll be
he's
able
like
to find
it's
your
dark,
keys.
and they're sitting in a lit kitchen.
He's like, this is a dark house. And Aaron's like, no, I really need to go now. And Joseph is like, Aaron, did I freak you out with my rape story?
The way he says it reminded me of Hunter.
Yeah.
They both kind of have a moment where they're like,
yeah,
is this about the rape thing?
absolutely.
Did I freak you out with my rape story? As if it's like as if it like couldn't be more normal.
Yep, and go and listen to our Swallow episode as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Spoilers.
And it's just like forcing Aaron to be like, obviously yes, but forcing Aaron to be like, no, it's fine. It's not fine.
Yeah.
And then he like, I think this is the first time where Joseph he becomes stern. He's like, Aaron, you've had, you've had a couple of drinks. I think your blood alcohol level is probably over, and you don't want to get a DUI. The roads are treacherous. You really should stay here tonight. And there's like this face off between them.
So
And
good.
He's like,
yeah.
telling Aaron.
And Aaron is just towering over this guy, and you can almost
Yeah.
see that he's like doing the math where he's like, well, if this guy tries to do something, I could probably do something. But like,
Yeah.
We also know like, not like the way you scream says a lot about you, but like he's just very timid overall. So it's like, even if he's trying to
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
himself like, well, he's shorter than me, so I could probably take him. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a guy who hasn't been in many fights probably, but
no.
he's not too concerned because
He's
he's
a
always
gentle
been
giant.
kind of big.
He's a
Yeah,
gentle
yeah.
giant.
Yeah.
People have probably just been like, it's not worth it. This dude's
Speaking from experience.
his arms
I
are as
look
long as my
spoopy on-
legs.
Yeah, exactly. I look spoopy on the outside, but I'm just a big old softy.
I'm the one you got to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I got my shooters.
You're scrappy, and I'm the most dangerous one of all.
Scrappy's always been my favorite, so you guys can fight over Scooby.
So then we cut to Aaron has accepted that he's going to spend the night, and he is pouring another whiskey. And he brings the drink over.
Adding some flavoring, though.
Yeah, he brings it over to Joseph so that he can do his like proper send off to Buddy, and you can see that Aaron has poured himself a very tiny whiskey and a large one for Joseph, and Joseph takes a sip and he's like tasting it, and he's like,
But he drugged it, right?
yeah, he's like, he can tell that it's drugged, but he's
Yeah,
like playing it off like he
yeah.
doesn't know. He's like, does that taste weird to you? Anyway, and he drinks it. I think he drinks the whole goddamn
Yeah,
thing.
he does. He's just
because
like,
he's
oh.
out of his mind.
Yeah.
He's like, let's play this game. I don't know where this is
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, he's like, fuck
I
it,
can
roll
use
the
a nap.
dice.
Fuck it.
Yeah. And he does his send off to Buddy, and he's like already feeling the effects of whatever it is. So this is the first time where Aaron is like getting wily. He's like, I am going to leave this house. I'll do whatever it takes. And then we see Joseph passed out on the hearth of the fireplace. Just like he's just laying on the fucking fireplace.
Yeah.
Sprawled out.
And he's sort of like in and out of consciousness, but mostly snoring. And Aaron is like waiting to make sure that it's taken effect. And in his sleep, Joseph is like moaning and talking to Peach Fuzz and like touching himself.
Yeah.
So fucking awkward.
Which is interesting because that's him unconscious. So that's Joseph.
Yeah, it's just him.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
Or he's
Peach
just
Fuzz.
yeah. Or he's like kind of awake and just being his character. Who knows?
He's wily.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So Aaron he's like, I'm going to surely my keys are in his pockets. And he's going through his pockets and he
Yeah.
finds a cell phone. He pulls out Joseph's cell phone, which immediately rings. And he's like, oh, fuck. And he runs off into the bathroom so he can answer it quietly. He hasn't even really thought about it. He's just answering the phone. He
Yeah.
has no idea. And it's Angela.
Angela, yep.
And she's like, Joseph? And he's like, no, I'm Aaron. Your husband hired me. And she's like, what? Where are you? And he's like, I'm in the house in Crestline. And she's like, what? And
Your house, your family's house.
clearly none of that is true.
Yeah.
And she's like, you should get out of that house right now. You should leave. And he's like, no, I don't know where the keys are. And she's like, I
Give me-
advise you to leave immediately.
Text me the address of where you're at.
Give
and
me
just
the
walk
address
out.
where you are.
And just walk out the front door.
And just keep
Yeah.
walking.
And just
And
keep
he's like,
walking.
What? And she's like, my brother has problems. And you're like, oh, fuck.
It's a big reveal.
Yeah, so none of that has been true. There is an Angela.
And it's like with all of these layers of truth and unreality and all these things, it's just like, did he rape his sister? Or
like some of that could be
or
true.
did he not?
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But he, like, that's like the one truth is
something about
there
Peach
is this
Fuzz.
other person who knows him and is in his phone and is his sister.
Yeah.
It's like the one truth we have.
Yeah, which I feel like we were kind of going back and forth on theories of how they're going to bring this around in the third one. I feel like that could be an interesting route to go, and
That
is to
would be an
introduce
interesting
Angela.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, introduce Angela and let's hear her side of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the phone cuts out before he can get any more information about her, and he comes back into the living room, and Joseph is no longer laying on the hearth, and he's like, oh, fuck. And he could be anywhere in this dark house, and he's sort of like sneaking around and like jumping around corners to like try to get ahead of the jump scare. And Joseph is nowhere to be found, and then he realizes the door to the balcony is open, so he like goes out there, and it's all, it's dark, and he's just like looking around, and then you hear Joseph say death. And he spins around, and there's like that nighttime light that's on the camera that's like that headlight look, and Joseph is like, we're all gonna die. What's the point? And it seems like he doesn't necessarily know what went on in the phone call, but it seems like he's entered a new phase of like his character in a way.
He leveled up.
Yeah. And he's just like,
Or
he
down?
just breaks down in tears, and he's like, he knows that he's like really trying Aaron's patience at this point. So he's like, I don't want to die. And he just starts crying and going in for a hug.
Gotta reel him back in.
Yeah, and with every progressive hug, you're like, is this the one where he gets stabbed?
Yeah.
Like, you never fucking know if it's just gonna be a hug. And Aaron's like, listen, Joseph, I know that none of this is true. Like, I'm not mad at you, but you really need to give me my keys. And Joseph is just staring at him like, what changed? Like, what? Mm-hmm. And Aaron's like, I talked to Angela. And Joseph just bolts into the house and disappears down the stairs. He just runs. And Aaron's like, oh,
Scurries away.
fuck, what now?
There's like that momentary, like a little longer than a half a second pause of like, I've been caught. And like you could see like the Mac color wheel like turning behind his eyes, and then he just bolts away, like just immediate sprint, like. But and it's probably like the cognitive catch up of like, at this point we don't know what was in the drink, but just him being like, huh? This son of a bitch knows. Like,
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how much Angela has told him, so he's just like, gotta recalibrate.
Yeah.
And Aaron has to go down the stairs anyway. Either way, he's got to go down the stairs, and he comes around the corner, and Joseph is blocking the front door, and he's got the Peach Fuzz mask on. And he's like
sprawled out across the door and just like growling.
Yeah. And Aaron's like, Joseph, are you going to let me go? Why are you doing this? And Joseph is not responding in any way. He's just growling and sort of like sensually grinding. And he's like, are you trying to scare me? And he's nodding. Are you going to let me go? And he shakes his head. And Aaron's just like, stop it. And Aaron just like totally loses his cool and like runs at Joseph, and they have some kind of scramble. And the camera cuts out, and you're like, I'm not sure how that went. And then it cuts to it's daytime, and there's this angle on the side of a mountain in the woods, and the camera is set up, and Joseph comes into frame dragging 2 large black garbage bags that seem kind of heavy.
It's so fucking disconcerting.
And then he does...
And he starts digging a grave.
And he does the worst job at it. He's literally kicking up dust for like his first several goes. He's like, we'll put the hole in post, right? Like...
He's just like, eh. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And then, of course, if you're checking here, you're like, how is there still 30 minutes left? This is the end, is it not?
Yeah.
You killed him. And then you find that this is Aaron filming his own TV screen at home in his apartment in LA. And he's like, so we had a little scuffle. Joseph just ran off. And I had my car towed and I went home. But then this DVD showed up in the mail and this was on it. I don't know what the fuck is meant by it. Like, I suppose that's a grave that's supposed to be me. I don't know. And he pulls out the disc and it has "For Aaron" written on it. And he's like, you know what? We're just gonna like
throw this away
and forget about it.
So I saw an interesting take online, which was that Angela is like, searching for her brother, knows that he's troubled, knows that he's in Crestline, and came to try to find him, and that's who's in the plastic bags.
Could be. Yeah.
Because
these things could happen at any point in the...
Yeah.
Like, stories within, like...
There's no sense of timeline of where we are.
Yeah, Paranormal Activity 2 takes place in the middle of Paranormal Activity 1.
Yeah.
So, like, you can stack stories.
Yeah, totally. But there is this, like... You are like, okay, is it really a body or is it not? But if it is really a body, it could be. I would definitely like to see her eventually, but that was an interesting take that I saw online, which was like, or it
could be like, maybe we don't know how he plays with other victims yet. Like, he could have just like popped down to town and like killed someone without fucking with them at all, just like a regular murder. Or it could just be trash in a bag.
Yeah, totally. We have no idea, but I just figured that was worth mentioning because I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, because we're still not sure about this guy because obviously Aaron made it out alive, and then Aaron is like, he's still like vlogging about it at night. He wakes up and he's like, I'm having these weird dreams about Joseph, like where we're in a hot tub together and he's wearing the peach fuzz mask, and I'm like, I'm a little kid and I'm wearing a mask too, and he's pouring wine on my head, and then
the hot tub seems to be a little foreshadowing for the second.
Yeah. They definitely used the elements from the first, or like the idea that like Joseph liked the things that Aaron said and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna use that in the future. So he's having this weird he's having nightmares about Joseph, understandably. And then the next day there's a big box on his doorstep with no return address. And he opens it up and there's like packing peanuts, and the first thing he pulls out is this like big kitchen knife, and then a disc that says "Watch Me," and it's Joseph apologizing for being manipulative, and he's like, I'm sorry I sent you that other movie. I was like, I mean, to be fair, you did drug me. I found the empty bottle of Benadryl.
That's what it was, Benadryl.
And he's like, but, I understand. And, like, I have a gift for you. If you dig deeper in the box, you'll find more. And this little baby wolf plushie. And he's like, I really love wolves. They love very deeply. But, sometimes they also murder the things they love. But, like, you reminded me of this baby wolf. And I think, you have a little bit of peach fuzz in you. Just this weird, like... And it's weird because it's like based on the dream he had. Like, I'm the papa wolf, you're the baby wolf. This like creepy dynamic.
Yeah, and you get the sense, I'm only realizing now, but you sort of get the sense that it's how masterful he is at psychological manipulation and it's subconscious conditioning, that he could make this guy have dreams that he's the baby wolf.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe
he's just gets in his head that much.
Yeah, maybe he's not always successful, but like, you know, 1 out of 10 times when he sends that baby wolf, the guy is like shitting his pants.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so like that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's a lot of baby wolves.
Yeah.
So he hints that like you should take this knife and stab this baby wolf, but also there's a treat inside for you. And Aaron like puts the knife down and like rips the plushie open like a normal person. And inside is a locket, a big old silver locket, which has a picture of each of them inside, and it plays music, which a locket wouldn't actually do, but like whatever, movie magic. And it's engraved.
Suspending disbelief.
Yeah. It's playing a little song, and it's engraved J+A forever. And Aaron's like, what the fuck? And then you can hear in the background the video finishing up. Joseph says, "See you soon, buddy."
Yeah.
Which is never good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But now he's like basically calling him buddy.
Yeah, totally. And
Aaron's like, now I'm ready to call the cops.
Yeah, I think it bears mentioning, because it's like really obvious when you see it, but that the picture of him is from the pictures he took of him around the house.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure some people connected that, but for the people that didn't, like that, that makes it even more unsettling. I feel like
because it's part of this nightmare.
Yeah, he didn't go on his like Facebook and just take a picture of him. He like specifically was like, "Don't forget, I can like lurk in the shadows where you can't see me."
Yeah.
And get pictures of your face straight on.
Yeah.
Like that's
Creepy
fucking bad.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
So Aaron's putting a new deadbolt on his door, and he's calling the cops, and he's like, you know, from a distance now, you're seeing it like he doesn't actually know anything about Joseph. Like they're asking him questions like, who is this guy? Where does he live?
What's his last name?
Yeah, and he can't answer any of those questions, and he's like, he lies a lot. What do you mean there's nothing you can do? And they're like, oh, there's nothing you don't have any information. And
It's
he's like,
still a cab over here.
but you know, they're like, call us back when he's stabbed you. Basically. So he's on his own. And then he's waking up at night, and he's like, I keep having this hot tub dream, but now there's like spikes in the hot tub. And then he stops because there's a sound outside, and he's like, oh, someone's creeping around my house. And somebody bangs on the wall, and he's like, okay. And he gets up, and he like turns on all the lights, and he's got the camera running, and he's like, he has the knife that Joseph sent him. So like even his self-defense isn't like, Joseph controls that. He's like, here's a knife that you can use if you think you can. So like he doesn't have any kind of control in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's doing a lap of his apartment, and there's this Joseph is standing right outside the glass door, just waiting to be seen. And as Aaron does a lap, Joseph like ducks out of the way and disappears again. Yeah. And he goes outside, and he's like, he hears a sound around the side of the house. He goes all the way into the back, and he finds the trash knocked over, and he's like a tool. He's like, goddamn raccoons.
That's what
like,
I
you
thought
really
too.
don't think.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Like,
You don't
But I mean,
think.
in any other situation, that's what I would think too.
yeah.
Like, you just called the cops today. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you don't really believe that's raccoons, do you?
I totally like understand the element of like, you know, he's obviously like very, very naive, like just a complete fool. But I understand the element of like when he steps outside, you know, part of you was like, why would you go outside? But I was like, I get it. It's like, hey, bro, this is it. Let's fight to the death. Let's go.
Yeah.
If you're gonna kill me, let's go. Let's fight. Do it.
Right.
Do it in the open. So I was
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
I kind of. This is the one moment where I respect him, where he's just like, hey, man, let's just knife fight. If you're gonna be here skulking around my house, let's just tie our left
go, bro.
left
Dick out
hands
right now.
together, knives in the right hands. Last man standing. Let's go. But then, yeah, raccoons. Like, oh, God, I respected you for half a second.
So later the same night, I think, the camera turns on like it's resting on the bedside table, and Aaron is full ass asleep. And the camera like just robes over like close to his face and like down to his feet, and Joseph is filming him and being like, look just how close I can get to you without you knowing. And he's just filming his vulnerable body and like his bare feet, and then he sets the camera back down and he reaches in and he takes scissors and he cuts off a lock of Aaron's hair.
I saw a TikTok earlier where it's like two guys talking, and he's like, bro, don't cut my hair without permission. And he's like, what are you talking about? I do it all the time. And he's like, you do it all the time? That's not okay. And he's like, yeah, I do it when you're asleep. He's like, you can't do that when I'm asleep. He's like, how do you think your hair stays the same length? He's like, it just grows. It just grows really slowly. And he's like, no, man, you're in there sleeping. I'm in there doing my best work.
No, that's me.
So I was just totally,
You're welcome.
I was just totally thinking of that at this moment. I'm just doing my best work.
Oh, and obviously Aaron has not watched any of the footage back, because the next morning he's like, whoa, boundaries have been crossed. And he shows like, this is where I sleep, this is my window. And he shows that like the screen has been cut because there are those bars on the window, because LA, which,
Hey.
you know, thank
Shout
God
out.
for window bars. And
They do great for mental health.
yeah, a DVD has been pushed through the screen that says "My Last Video." So he has no idea what's been happening while he's been sleeping.
Yeah, it's so funny.
And he puts the disc in, and for the first time, it's Joseph sitting by Lake Gregory, which is comforting because it means Joseph has gone back to where he was, away from like 3 hours away. So that's comforting. And for the first time, he's not wearing his weird black outfit. He's wearing like a pink t-shirt. He looks like a normal guy. And he's just leveling with Aaron. He's like, I'm so sorry. You know, I understand why you threw this away. And it's the disc that says for Aaron, the first disc. But like, finding this in your trash, and it's the locket.
This
he's
was
like,
harder to accept.
this hurt, you know, you hurt my feelings, but I get it.
This is so good.
And he's just like, he's laying it all out. He's like, you know, I am a liar, you know, I can't help it. I always wanted to be an actor, and like maybe I have some kind of mental illness, I don't know, but like I just like to play pretend, and I'm just a really lonely guy, and I really need a friend, and I thought maybe you could be my friend. And so like, I'm here at Lake Gregory. If you want to meet tomorrow at 11 a.m., I'd like to, like, it's out in the open in public. Like, I'd love to apologize and explain myself. If you don't want to come, I understand, but like, I just really need someone to talk to. And Aaron pauses it, and he turns the camera around, and he's like, just, what am I supposed to do? He looks so sad.
And he doesn't
Yeah.
even look sad. It's like,
No, he doesn't.
it's like you're that much of a rube.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, man.
This is probably the biggest moment where you're like, Aaron, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He's so good at doing the puppy dog eyes, though.
Yeah. Mark Duplass's giant face.
Yeah.
He's a fucking powerhouse, bro.
Yeah.
You guys watch Regular Show? Oh, you absolutely
I've seen a
should.
couple of episodes.
It would be right up your alley, Evelyn. It's very
Yeah.
funny. But there's an episode
Yeah.
where they're the high score on the arcade is GBF, and they finally beat it, and then this like giant bearded face comes down from space, and he's like, "What did you think GBF stood for?" And yeah, that's
Wow.
That's just every time you mention the size of his face, I just think of that.
Yeah.
Just giant smiling face from the sky. Maybe a little bit of Evangelion vibes from
Yeah. He's an angel.
Mark Duplass blocks out the sun, and he's like, hello.
Cruel creeps thesis.
Yeah. So Aaron, like an idiot, decides to go
Ugh.
to Lake Gregory And he's got the shot. He's inside of his car and he's parked and he's got this frame of like a park bench and a tree by the lakeside. And he's like, all right, Joseph, you got me. I'm here. But just know I am filming this and I have my phone set to speed dial 911. So if you try anything... And then he sets the camera on the dashboard and he goes over to sit on the bench. And, he's sort of like jumpy. He like looks behind him and he hears like a chainsaw in the distance. And you're like, maybe there's a chainsaw. Who knows?
Yeah. And then you get the sense like it must just be someone working.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And he like turns back around to look at the lake and he like slumps way down on the bench and he's like, I'm just going to wait and maybe, Joseph will be here and he'll bring coffee and we'll talk about it or whatever. And Joseph appears behind him. He's kind of dressed like him, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
They're both he's wearing like a beige trench coat.
Yep.
And very, very in the spirit of American Psycho. You can see
That's so true.
that he has an axe
Hey,
behind his
Paul.
leg. It's a very Hey Paul moment.
Yeah, it is.
And he pulls out from inside his trench coat, he has the peach fuzz mask and he puts it on. And it's a very like clownish.
Cartoony.
He's like, yeah, he's taking his time. He's like, and the mask goes on and he's not turning around. Okay, well, now I'm going to take the axe and raise it up. And he's like creeping up like big animated steps.
Yeah.
And he raises the axe way over his head and waits a little bit. And Aaron doesn't turn around. So he just brings the axe down into his head. And you can hear it. And you know that it's real.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all been leading up to this, but it's been so like gaslighty that you've been gaslit to a degree. And you're like, I mean, maybe he won't do anything to him. And then all of a sudden, Aaron has an axe in his head. And you're like, holy shit.
Yep, then he finishes his ass off.
And it's so
Yeah.
realistic. It's like
Yeah.
incredibly well done.
Actually, they only give you the two. You get, we talked about this, right? You get the one thwack
He
into the
sinks
head.
it into his head and then he pulls it out and he goes for another swing. And then there's a pause,
Yeah.
which we've done
That's
before
great.
in this movie. So you think you're watching something, but you're watching someone film something. And then it's Joseph sitting somewhere in the dark in like his little fucking video studio, and he's just addressing Aaron, and he's like, it keeps getting better every time I watch it, like I thought, it's pretty smart that you had 911 on speed dial, but like, why didn't you ever look behind you? It just seems dumb. And then I realized, Aaron, it's because you're the best. Like, no matter what I did to you, you believed that I was good and I wouldn't harm you. And that is why I will always love you.
Out of all the others.
And why you'll always be my favorite.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you get the sense
then-
that that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he really does love him. Because he loves his work.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. And then he hits play on the video again, and Joseph is no longer in the frame, and Aaron is slumped over on the bench. And then Joseph in the video at the lake, like, jump scares the camera that's on the dashboard of the car and screams into the camera, and then
Which in turn scares Joseph in real life.
he jump scared himself through time, and he's just screaming at himself.
It's so like primal. It's like the
Yeah.
only way he can have a wolf pack is to like replicate himself in this way.
He's so alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And then to just cut right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cut to black.
And then he's filming himself roaming around his house, and he's taking a phone call, and he's like, hello, yep, this is Bill. There's not a lot you need to know. You just need a camera, yourself, and 8 hours of your time. So he's like setting up his next victim.
Yep.
And he goes into this room where he's got a shelf like shelves full
It's so
of
cool how that's done too. It's just like walking.
yeah.
While he's on the phone.
He's got lots of VHS tapes, and they're all labeled like Dylan 94, Kate, Tiny Little 96, David K home, David K school, Leah washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And there's just like over the years all these like names, which is not good. Gardener, painter, Ellen, violinist.
Jesus.
And he doesn't have very many DVDs, but he adds to the collection is the disc that says Aaron and there's a heart on it. Yeah. And then it cuts to black.
Roll the fucking credits, bro.
Yeah.
Oh man, this movie is so good.
It's so good. It's so much fun.
It's so minimal and delivers. I mean, everybody is delivering such fucking powerful performances.
Yeah.
And they're literally carrying the entire movie with the weight of their performances.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I like, and yeah, which is why we struggle to call it a slasher, because there's really only one on-screen kill in this movie.
And that would be a chopper, really. You chop with axes.
Yeah, that's. Excuse me. I didn't mean to offend.
I can't think of this as a slasher. There's too little violence. It's just,
it's more psychological.
To me, it's a thriller. But it's just so playful. You know, like
it is. It's so much fucking fun.
You can't hate Joseph because he's just he's too interesting. And like, even though he does all this gaslighting, like he's so masterful at it.
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, he gives his victims so many outs. And you get the sense that like if they took an out and they're like, I'm gone, fuck you, he'd be like, well, that one got away.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's looking for, no, I mean, not consent, but his form of consent.
Yeah, he wants to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's like an undertone of, it's a little bit flirty at times. Like maybe he's like coming on to Aaron in a sense.
Yeah.
But there are many different angles that he's playing at the same time, and he's like, he seems pretty open to which one he's going to go for.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's great, like, foreshadowing for part 2, because he kind of gets that opportunity.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Like,
yeah.
Speaking on, like, a meta level as well as, like, within the film itself, like, it is a deconstruction of those kind of films. Like, whether...
Yeah.
I don't know if Joseph necessarily like knows and is a fan. Like in the second movie he mentions Interview with the Vampire, so that kind of gives a sense that like he does know a little more than like the average horror fan or something, you know. So it kind of gives a sense that like he knows and is like doing these tropes in real life, and it's like, you know, this is his art, his like life's calling. We know that like for sure. So it's like just, I don't know, just this like deconstruction on so many levels. And
Yeah, absolutely.
and it works on a lot of them, if not all, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love this movie. So, I mean, are we gonna rate her up?
I mean, I don't think we mentioned it on the pod. Did we? No, did we mention it at the beginning? I think we did. The whole they made it for $0 and made 7 figures off of it.
Right.
I mean, I gotta give him a 6 just off that alone. That's the dream right there.
That's exactly. Yeah, no, I'm giving this a firm 6 because I adore. It took me a while to get to this one because I'd heard all the hype around it, and then when 2 dropped, I was like, oh, all right, I'll get around to the first one.
For sure.
And it took me like I think a year after that, I finally was like, you know what? I meant to check out Creep. Let me check it out.
Yeah.
I was fucking floored. I did both in one day.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think by the time I saw this, both were out. But I just had no context. Like I went in pretty blind.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it for sure.
I'm torn. Like I feel like I should give it a 5 out of 6 just to like, for a little contrast for how much I love the second one.
Yeah.
Just to give the second one the room to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is insanely, and this is like a really rare thing, I think the first one is good. I think the second one is even better.
No, it's absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
It's far superior.
And it's so
far superior.
It's so rare where you really do get a sequel that is like genuinely valid and like earned. And they even said, they were like, you know, how do you make a sequel to a movie like this? And so we like really thought about it, and then we did it, and we were like, it's so derivative. Like, is it even really a sequel? And then they were like, people loved it, and so we would love to do a third. But what they've said is like, up till now, they haven't come up with the treatment that like is the one. Because they don't want to rush it. They took 3 years between the other two movies, presumably shot both of them in like a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
know?
That's easy to do.
Yeah.
You only have one, maybe two locations for this one.
Yeah. I feel like something needs to be said about Mark Duplass and mountain cabins. Because this fucker... Okay, so there's a movie called Blue Jay, which is a great fucking movie, by the way. I do recommend. It is a romantic movie, and it is shot... There's two people, basically, in it. It's him, it's Mark Duplass and Sarah Paulson, and I think they shot it in Crestline.
Oh, wow.
And...
That's so funny.
They're two people who used to live in this town. They were high school sweethearts, and they just happened to, like, he's still there. She's moved away. Like, he's back to, like, clean up his dad's house, and they run into each other at the grocery store, and they're like, holy shit, it's you. And then they, like, on a whim decide to spend the rest of the day together just, like, reminiscing, and it's, like, it's really beautiful and really sad, and it's, like, it'll break your heart. But it was like the third movie I saw Mark Duplass in after Creep and Creep 2. And I'm just like, he has a fucking beard. He's in this mountain town with this woman, and he's like, come back to my house.
Run, Sarah!
They're like role playing and listening to recordings of themselves. It was like, oh my god, this is so stressful.
That's so funny. Then at the end you were like, well, I guess it was just a beautiful film, and your heart like starts to slow back down.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't help but be like, maybe this is Creep 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just like didn't tell you.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the people of Crestline are like, oh, look, it's Mark. He's making another movie.
Exactly.
These guys' films are always really realistic. Unsettling, but realistic.
So, I mean, we should probably give them the news. You guys are getting 2 episodes at once, baby.
Yeah. This is part 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Since we're gonna do these as 2 episodes. You're just getting 2 episodes this week. That's just how we've decided to do this.
You're welcome.
So I'm gonna do this for this week's question. So what is something that you remember dressing up as?
Oh, that's funny. I did Scorpion one year. When I was like a kid, but one of my favorite costumes was Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Classic. Goes
like only the teachers got the reference at my school.
And they were like, "Oh, you creepy little fucker."
And they were
like,
disturbed. They hit all the penis statues that day. They were like, we don't need you beating anyone to death with these.
The ones at the school.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that was mine.
Oh, man. Actually, my mom just reminded me of something the other day. So there's a July 4th parade in Columbus, Ohio called the Doodah Parade. And one year, I guess, the political issue at hand was that there was an egg farm that was running somewhere nearby, and it was like causing like a lot of flies in the area, and people were sort of protesting it. And my mom, it was probably my mom's idea. She decided that we were all going to dress as flies and like paint ourselves, you know, just like a little shit around the mouths and on the hands, and like we were gonna do this little chant about like close the egg farm. And, you know, we were in the parade and we were all flies.
This is fucking wild.
That's incredible. I need pictures
So,
of this. Please tell me there are pictures.
There must be somewhere.
You have to get this. We need to post this on the Instagram.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Please.
Evelyn looks at it. She's like, "Oh, we're all in blackface. Never mind."
Just a little. So, but I guess it was kind of clever because we were flies, so we were like in support of the egg farm. But like the implication of like, you need to get this shut down. So yeah, I don't know. Like I got dragged into some kind of political thing at age. I was probably like 12.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's so
So there you
Just
go.
old enough to understand it was shit being painted around her mouth.
Yeah.
That's hella funny. All right, so mine, I remember one year, I don't know why, but just like particularly this one year, I never really liked to dress up very much. I still don't really like to, but I'm trying to kind of like get over it and just enjoy the fun of it. But I don't know, I'm always someone who's felt like I just want to dress like me, you know? But one year I told my mom, I was probably in like 4th or 5th grade and I was very into Pokemon. And I was like, yo, I love Hitmonchan. Like, he's so cool. Which, if you don't know, he's like, there's like 2 like martial
boxer
arts.
dude, right?
Yeah, there's like 2 martial arts Pokemon. And Hitmonchan is supposed to be like based off Jackie Chan. And Hitmonlee is supposed to be Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. That's so funny.
And Hitmonchan has like boxing gloves and does punches, and Hitmonlee has like these like rings that grow into his legs and like uses kicks. So my mom made me this like complicated Hitmonchan costume with like a mask and everything. And
Hell yeah.
and by like halfway in the night though, I was like, this is just so much to wear and I can't breathe. And like, but it was
I need to get out.
But it was really, really cool. I should look for pictures of that too. But like that was definitely one of the coolest things my mom ever did for me.
Nice.
I bet we gotta pull out. Yeah, let's
need
try
photos for all of these.
Yeah, hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll have dropped like childhood Halloween costume photos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, let's.
So
I would say let's leave her here.
Yeah, and we'll
gird your loins for part 2.
Yeah, we'll catch all of you guys in part 2.
Go take a bathroom break.
Yeah.
Which is out
Go
now.
smoke some weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So come back and join us for the next conversation. We're going right into Creep 2.
That's
Creep
right.
2,
And
creepier.
And you know, in the time that that's hilarious. And in the time that it takes for that episode to load, you could easily go on Facebook and follow us at the Devil's Work Podcast. You could follow us on Instagram at the Devil's
You
Work
can
Pod.
and should.
You can go back a page on Spotify and hit, or your podcatcher of choice, and hit that 5-star rating. Any of those things we would greatly, greatly appreciate.
Yup, absolutely. Please keep on supporting the show, and we will see you guys right now.
Yeah.